Beautiful people, good morning, glorious people. It is Monday, the 26th of August. It is 9 a.m. British summertime, and we are here live and in full effect to see you here this morning. So many fantastic people already in the chat. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Morning all, stay free, grand risings to you all. How are you? You know what today is, right? You know what today is, right? It's Carnival! How are you all out there? This is my history, people. This is who I am. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Hello, Maria from Sydney. Whoop, whoop, crazy bunny. Yeah, Teresa. May I all gather you all here together today to say happy birthday to Teresa, who was in our comments. It was her birthday yesterday, and we love her lots around here. Yes, Wendy feels more awake already. Oh, that's good to hear. That is so good to hear. It would be really good if I remembered to actually record what I'm doing here so we can put it on X later. I am feeling alive. I am truly feeling alive today, people. Hello, Eleanor and Mickey and Treble and Mark and Gillian and James and Devon and Louise and Vanessa. Yes, Teresa, we love you. Happy birthday, Poppet. Thank you, Marie. It's a bit wild. It's a bit wild today. Who is feeling really depressed, says Matt. No, you're not allowed to. We're going to bring you out there. What? Julie, your local carnival cancelled this year? No way. Rotten. Rotten. Hello, Sunny Kent. Michael is in. Is it Michael? No, Michael Laura Anderson. Which one is it? Let's say Laura. Is it sunny in Kent? I was in Kent a couple of weeks ago. Lovely Margate. Grand risings to you, Cheryl. Yes, evening from New Zealand. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for joining us wherever you are around the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or night. You know you are more than welcome to be here. I am so excited to be here today. Good morning, Fran. Fran is in Switzerland. And I don't know why I'm just so excited to be here. Happy bank holiday, Fred. Happy bank holiday. And there were a couple of comments at the beginning. I thought I must read these out. Let me find them. Hold on. Let me find them. Lorraine left the first message last night, and I don't know what happens, whether after you leave the first message, when it goes into the next day, whether they then get erased, because I know it's not me or the mods doing it, so I don't know what is happening there. But Lorraine left a comment saying, thought I'd tried to be the first to wish you a happy Monday. Well, you were, Lorraine. Thank you so much. And Herbert wants to know if on a bank holiday I'm paying myself double. I better check. I'll check with the boss. Are you paying yourself double, Sonia? No, you're not. You're just happy to be here. We're happy to be here. Yes, we are. Thank you for all your messages, emails, contributions, donations, you name it. What a show we have for you. We'll be talking the interesting links between Lucy Letby and tech billionaire Mike Lynch, who died last week. And what about the arrest this weekend of Telegram CEO Pavel Durov? I'll be joined by journalist Tom Sullivan, who is fresh back from Russia and has plenty to say about that and more. And we'll also be looking at Sir Keir, take a knee, Starmer. He's promised that things will get worse before they get better. Probably the most honest thing he's ever actually said. But it's another threat to us, isn't it? He just keeps threatening us. I'll be joined by Graham Moore of the English Constitution Society, who will tell us about the time they conducted a citizen's arrest on Starmer and why he's not yet banged up, even though he should be. And my final guest today is my old Kiss FM mucker, DJ Dave VJ. Seeing as it's Carnival in London, this man is special to me. And one of the reasons he's special to me is without him, I probably wouldn't be here. He literally gave me my first break in radio. I love you, Dave VJ. See you at 10 a.m. And we'll also be talking Tickle versus Giggle. Pennis versus Edwards, rioting child abusers, Kirsty Allsop, and social services. We'll be talking about how it is an absolute hell on earth for Afghan women. And I have no idea why we're not raising the biggest noises around the world about what these women and girls are enduring. Plus, we'll have a Geo-Engineering roundup. And also, I'll be looking at how to break generational curses. So there you go. That's an overview of our show today. And Susie, beautiful, lovely Susie. Good morning to you, Susie. Susie is currently, very sadly, watching, well, it's too close to comfort for her, the fire that has been going on in East London, East London Tower Block. A tower block in East London caught fire in the early hours of this morning. Dozens of people, including children, have been evacuated. Over 200 firefighters are responding to a blaze in Dagenham, East London, and 2 people have been taken to hospital. A significant search and rescue operation is underway as more than 100 people, including children, have been evacuated. I do not know any more details about it. I sincerely hope it is not a cladding issue as it was in Grenfell, but whenever these things happen now in London, I think many Londoners, including myself, automatically think about what happened in Grenfell and all the deaths there. I think it was 73, if I remember correctly. Please correct me if I am wrong. And Keir Starmer warns of tough times ahead, he says, to fix Tory ruins. You're full of it, Starmer. You're absolutely full of it. He'll be delivering a tough message speech before the return of MPs to Westminster on 2nd of September. That's actually next Tuesday. Everybody, all the news have been reported, and it's this Tuesday, but it's actually next Tuesday. So I'm not quite sure where there's a confusion there, but either way, Starmer is going to be saying that they have inherited not just an economic black hole, but a societal black hole. And he is here to fix it. Hilarious. The man who has now systematically managed to alienate almost every Brit that I can think of. And bear in mind what Simon Elmer said to us last week. Simon Elmer very clearly outlined, as indeed we all know anyway, that only 20% of voters voted for Keir Starmer. Wef Keir Starmer. And we are being warned that British people will have to endure even worse economic and social pressures in the months to come as the Labour government takes unpopular decisions. You know what this means, don't you, folks? This means we're going to be plunged back in to the ideological madness of austerity. They already started it with elderly people taking away the winter fuel allowance. If you want to know who Keir Starmer is and his cabinet, that's all you have to look at. They started on the pensioners first of all, right? And he's coming out with some at this forthcoming speech. Of course, all of it has been leaked. Wait. It's my camera traveling with me right now. I think it is, isn't it? One of the things that he's going to say, which is utterly, reprehensibly ridiculous, is this whole idea. What just happened? Did that? Oh, right. Okay. Is this whole idea that the rioting occurred because the people who were rioting knew there weren't enough prison places to bang them up. You're full of it, Starmer. That is not why it occurred. Not at all. It occurred because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired of not being listened to. Right? That is largely why it occurred. Yeah, there were problems on social media, of course. And I want to address problems on social media. There was this post, which has now got, I think, 42 million views, and it's from a Twitter account called Europe Invasion. It says, breaking: UK government prepares to deploy asylum seekers across the country. Immigrants will be given priority over Britons when it comes to finding housing. What about that, amplified by Elon Musk, is there's no source to it. We need a source to it. We know that Angela Rayner, the deputy PM, has said daft stuff, but there's no actual source for those statements, and those statements are very serious. And 42 million people on Twitter viewing that and becoming scared and petrified by it is not a good look unless we actually have a solid source. So I just asked them, please supply a source for this. People are deeply concerned, and this post is vague. It's vague because this is how they get their clickbait. And since the blue ticks are monetized, big accounts like this will put out these vague statements without any backup. Now, I'm not saying that that isn't happening. What I'm saying is, give me a source. Give me a source so we can tackle it properly, right? Give me a source. It's that simple, really that simple. And anybody see the Tickle versus Giggle result? I am absolutely horrified that the powerhouse that is Sal Grover has not only had to deal with the legal horrors of a delusional and entitled human being with ill-founded victimhood on full display, but a judge in Australia has essentially said, yes, a person can force their way into your business, make it something that is not, and the law will back them up. What the actual madness is this? for those who don't know, Sal Grover launched a woman-only app called Tickle, and a trans-identified male sought to join it, and when couldn't, then sought to take it through the courts and actually won. So very disturbing. Been awarded $10,000 plus costs. A judge has said that cases have established that on its ordinary meaning, sex is changeable. That's the kind of world we're living in. Sex is not changeable. When did sex become changeable? Would somebody like to tell me that? Anyway, to my understanding, Sal Grover will be appealing that. Tickle sought huge damages, by the way, absolutely huge, wanted $200,000, claiming that persistent misgendering by Grover resulted in constant anxiety and occasional suicide thoughts. But the problem about all of this is it set a precedent. And I'm very concerned about what that precedent may mean to the rest of us. Let us bring in our first guest. Our first guest, who's just returned from Russia, actually. And I've never been to Russia. Have you been to Russia? We often have people from Russia in our comments. Here he is. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Sonia. How are you? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I've been playing hot, hot, hot because it's Carnival. And I love Carnival. Everybody, this is Tom Sullivan. He is a journalist. And more importantly, today, he's just returned from Russia. I watched your vlog. Do you know, the thing is, what I loved about it, Tom, was that it just put to bed so many stereotypes, right? It was so light, and it was like you showed great culture, you showed traveling, you showed some delightful food, brilliant imagery that was captured, so much joy, lots of singing that I couldn't understand. What language were you singing in, Tom?
It was in Russian, and the singing, it was usually followed by a lot of drinking, which is part of the culture. But I appreciate that, Sonia. Thank you. And that was kind of my intention. I didn't want to, I mean, I just for some context. So I 10 years ago exactly, almost to the month, I started university and I started studying Russian as well as international politics. And for those last 10 years, I've studied Russian. I've traveled to and across Russia. I've lived in Russia. And I haven't been back there for 4 years, was the last time I was there. Um, and there were a lot of good reasons to not go. First there was pandemic, then there was war, and I just kept making probably very good excuses. But this year I just thought, you know what, I have a lot of friends there, and there's probably not going to be a good time to go, so I took a calculated risk. And I was prepared for. I spoke to a lot of people, like Brits who had traveled since the war, and I watched a lot of YouTubers and read Reddit columns and etc. And even someone who speaks the language, well enough to get by, but not too well that they think I'm a spy, which is good for me. Um,
Very
I
good.
prepared myself for nothing scary, but something boring. So like a 3-4 hour wait, and then a horrible interview about who am I, why am I here? And they might look through my bags, or whatever. There was none of that. Um, Everyone was surprised, including myself. They literally just waved me through. But the point, Sonia, is a lot of other people, Brits especially, who've gone there and they're not super familiar with the culture, whatever. They do the obvious things. They go, to the sites in Moscow. They might go to the new Russian McDonald's and see, does the Big Mac taste the same as it did before the sanction, or whatever. And I felt like I had quite a unique perspective, as I don't have any. I get asked this all the time. I have no Russian heritage. I have no family connections. It's just something that I studied at university, and my first job in TV was in Moscow, and I just kind of have this connection. And because Peter Hitchens, who also lived in Moscow in the 90s, he even said once, once you live in Russia, you are damned, for better or worse, forever, to see them
Yes.
as human beings.
Oh, right.
Um,
Oh, damn, to see them as human beings. And that is a brilliant point. That is
yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And that is also what I liked about it.
I
As I
wanted to
say,
just show the kind of I deliberately excluded any type of politics or stuff to do with the war. I just wanted to show that, they are normal people living on that side as well.
And it is important that you show that, because certainly in Britain, the Russians have been demonized for as long as I've been alive. They have always been the bogeyman, the problem. And obviously we're finding out bit by bit that media has lied to us, Tom. I know
Mhm.
that's really hard for people to believe, but media has been lying to us for an awful long time. And that's why I found what you had done really refreshing. And I just found it really joyous. Is it available online? I'd like to put a link in the description so people can see it.
Yeah, it's on my Twitter
Oh,
profile
it
at
is.
the
Yes,
top.
that's
So
right.
you can go at TSBTRM.
What was I am curious, what was that scene where loads of people greeted you with bread? It was like it was a homecoming. What was going on there?
So when I was in university, I wasn't the most studious student. I spent a bit more time, down the pub than I did in the library. And at some point, I realized I kind of have to pass my exams if I want to leave with the degree. So I saw one day in our department corridor, like just posters, volunteer in Russia, teach English in the summer. And I just signed up, and within like 2 months, they sent me to a small city, like 3 hours southeast of Moscow, like 500,000 people. And I'd go there for like 2.5 months every summer, and I'd teach English in a school for a month. And then that school would have like a kids' summer camp in the countryside on a lake in like an old scouts building. And I'd go like volunteer. It's like Camp America, but Camp Russia in a way. And I'd done that a few summers in a row. So I knew all the people who run it, and some of the kids who were like 12 years old when I was volunteering there last. They're now like 18, 19 years
Oh,
old, and they're
wow,
running
they
the
were
camp
welcoming
themselves.
you back.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I
Lovely.
planned it, so I spent a week there. So almost my first week was eating like kind of Soviet food in the canteen served by like grumpy grandmas, and just, teaching English, playing volleyball, swimming in the lake, dressing up in silly costumes and doing dances. And yeah, it was great.
Oh, absolutely joyous. So obviously, it would be absolutely remiss, and you happy to talk about it anyway, not to
Sure.
talk about what has gone on this weekend to do with Telegram, because
Yeah.
obviously Pavel Durov started Telegram in Russia,
hmm
right?
hmm
Talk to us. What are your thoughts about what's going on, Tom?
So just I won't go too deeply, but just it's always good to have a little bit of context. So Durov is like the Russian Zuckerberg, right? And his first two apps which he created, one is called VK, Vkontakte. It means in contact. It's the Russian version of Facebook. To this day, it's as popular as Facebook. It always was more popular than Facebook.
Wow.
And another one, Одноклассники, it means classmates. It's like Facebook for old people, for boomers. I forget the name. We had one in the UK where
For
you
old
typed in your
people.
school. What was it called? Where you typed in your school and your year of your primary school, and you'd find people who you went to school with. Anyway, it's like
Oh,
Facebook
yeah.
for
Oh,
oldies.
I know what you're talking about.
You
Oh,
know what
yeah.
I'm talking about.
What
But
was
it
that?
I couldn't remember
Oh, my
either.
God.
It will
Okay.
annoy us. But
Somebody will
anyway,
remind us in the
so,
comments.
so
But yeah.
Facebook and VK and Odnoklassniki, they're still the two most popular social sites in Russia. And he started them, and the Russian government pressured him to allow them to have a backdoor and have a way to, delete things if they wanted them deleted or whatever. And he put up a fight, and in the end, he just said, "You know what? I will sell you." He sold it to a Yandex or someone close to the Russian government. But with Telegram, he did it. He said, "Right, okay, I've done that, but this is my new baby. I don't want to do that." So he left Russia after they asked him to, compromise Telegram. He left in 2014 when Crimea and the whole Donbass war and everything started. And he didn't just leave, neutrally. He put a photo of himself putting his middle finger up to Putin, and he, vocalized his support for the Ukrainian cause and whatever. But in the time since then, he moved to Dubai, which is seen as like a neutral kind of place. He got UAE citizenship and French citizenship. Um, and his whole thing was that I want Telegram to be neutral and safe, and I won't give any government some backdoors or whatever it is. That's not to say he was an absolute free speech absolutists, Sonia. Like, there is moderation on Telegram, and it does choose to comply with certain governments when it feels like it. For example, when the EU said to Telegram, you have to block Russia Today and Russian news outlets, they complied. They didn't have to, but they made that decision. So it's never been 100% neutral, right? So this guy, he leaves Russia. He says, yeah, it's, backward. It's not up with the new technological world. He says, yeah, screw Putin. I support Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. Oh, what, you want me to block Russia today? Yeah, I'll do that, whatever. But clearly, it still wasn't enough. And in his interview a few months ago with Tucker Carlson, he said that he doesn't go to America anymore and he's moved permanently to Dubai because whenever he's in America, the FBI would show up at wherever he's staying
Wow.
and try to have weird conversations with him. But
Wow.
this is the interesting thing now. So we have not enough information to say anything either way, but there's rife speculation and conspiracy theories on both sides. But before I touch on them briefly, and stop me if I'm rambling, the
No,
interesting
go.
thing about Telegram is because of Durov and his team that run Telegram, their insistence of being as much as human physically possible, neutral and protecting the privacy of their users. In Ukraine and Russia, Telegram is the number 1 app used by everyone, by pro-government, by anti-government, by a cleaner in a village in Siberia, and by, the assistant to a minister in Moscow. It's used by everyone, Sonia. I can't explain it. And in a weird way, because Durov has I don't want to speak too soon, but until now at least, has kept this kind of trust and security and privacy. Both Ukrainians in the government and normal people and on the front line and whatever, and Russians have both felt safe enough to use Telegram. So in a way, that goes to show that you have these two countries which are in a brutal war of attrition, and they both use this app. So
Right.
it's just a sign of how Telegram has been used. So Durov arrested in France. They say that it's because classic, he didn't comply with letting French government or EU, whatever it is, as much access as they would like into Telegram, and saying that people traffic and do drugs and stuff like that. If you go down that route, all I would say is, let's ban Toyota because their ISIS ended up using their trucks or whatever,
Right.
or,
Right.
God forbid,
Right.
second, third hand knowledge, obviously, but WhatsApp, I'm sure, is used for drug trafficking and stuff in the
Yeah.
UK.
Right. Got
It's
you.
definitely one to watch, but it doesn't look very good. And ironically, Durov was not detained by Russia, but was detained by a Western government.
Right.
So
Right.
a
And
lot to watch out for there.
there is a lot to watch out for there. You're absolutely right. And so what they said, of course, prosecutors claim, as you say, that Telegram's lack of moderation, refusal to cooperate with law enforcement, plus encryption, they say, makes him an accomplice in drug trafficking, fraud, and sexual abuse. But as you so rightly say, we really should be past this whole idea that the thing is the problem. It's the people who use the thing that's the problem. And that's what we need to progress from. But a lot of people really feel that it's nothing to do with that at all. And this is about the clamping down of social media, which
Yeah.
obviously in recent weeks in the UK has intensified beyond anything that I would imagine in the first month of a new government. So that's what many people believe. Do you think that there's validity to that?
I do. And the thing is, it's quite interesting to see how pro-Ukrainian and pro-Zelensky accounts are spinning this. They're saying that Durov was in Azerbaijan at the same time as Putin, and he's like defecting to the West or whatever. And they're saying that even though he left Russia because he didn't want to give the Russian government access, he's the pro kind of Zelensky crowd are saying that, Telegram is a Russian asset because it doesn't let the West have access to it either. And this kind of just goes to prove the point, which I picked up on in Russia, actually, Sonia, is people in Russia who are against the war, against the government. They consider themselves as liberals and, even kind of pro-Ukrainian, I would say. Even they say to me, we realize that there's no good Russians now. It doesn't matter what we do, but by the fact that we're born Russian, we are bad. And it seems like that situation is playing out with Durov. And just one important thing which I noticed in his interview he did with Tucker Carlson, Sonia, if you just go to any part of the interview, in the background there are two chairs right behind Durov. And pardon me, I know it's quite early. I'll try and be idiomatic, but on one of the chairs it has very sharp knives sticking up, and on the other chairs it has male appendage, multiple male appendage also sticking up.
I have
And
not noticed this.
well, it was pointed out to me. And people assume it refers to kind of a Russian prison riddle or joke, which is, if you had a chair with one with knives sticking up and one with multiple male appendage sticking up, which one would you sit on? And which one would you have your mother sit on? And it's a very vulgar, typically kind of Russian version of a rock and a hard place. So why would he choose to sit in front of that in his interview when he's complaining about the FBI? I don't know. Maybe it's like a cry for help. Maybe he knew his days were numbered.
Wow.
But yeah. So it's very interesting. I don't really buy the thing that he was like a secret Russian agent. Now he's defected. To me, it just looks like Telegram is following TikTok and probably preceding X. These are platforms which, even for all their faults, are exposing the mainstream media narrative, whether it be about Gaza, whether it be about Ukraine, and more recently, whether it be about the riots and stuff that's happening in the UK. And I know I'm running out of time, Sonia, but I just want to make this last point. When I was in Russia and I was so everyone uses VPN, so the bans don't really mean anything. But I didn't have a VPN on my phone, and that means X was blocked for me. And it was probably a good thing, because those whole 3 weeks I was there, thousands of people were arrested for social media use in the UK. And when you see that in America, the main opposition to the president, they tried to lock him up and then someone tried to kill him. And then in the UK, thousands of people are arrested for, tweeting against the government's migration policy and whatever it is. And I'm sitting there in Russia and I'm like, this is what for years they told us that Russia is like, and it's literally happening to us, and the same thing with the whole Kursk incursion. I was reading The Spectator and they would say it's chaos in Moscow, this is a disaster for Putin. And I was in Moscow and I was speaking to everyone from the lowest to the highest, from all persuasions, and even people who initially were against everything and they're still kind of against everything that the Russian government's doing, the more pressure they feel from the outside. I don't know if it's unique to them, but it's definitely specific to them. The more pressure they feel from the outside, Sonia, the more they actually kind of rally around the flag. So everything we're doing is counterproductive, and it's not apples and pears. I'm not saying rose-tinted glasses, everything's amazing there, everything's horrible here. It's just because I was able to have this perspective. We're in no position to throw stones. Basically, we're in a very, very fragile glass house, and I would encourage people as much as possible to try and travel and make bridges and build connections, because it just completely changes how you view everything and how you receive what you're told.
Brilliant insight. Thank you so much, Tom. This is one of the reasons that we started doing this, and that is we want to look at the world in a different way than we've all been encouraged to for a very long time. And I think you've just started us off beautifully this morning. Thank you so much, everybody. This is the journalist, Tom Sullivan. Take good care of yourself, Tom. Have a fantastic bank holiday Monday.
Thank you for having me. You too, Sonia.
Wonderful to have you with us. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. I love that. I love turning the world on its head, because we've been presented a world that's so seriously inverted, right? How are you all out there in the comments? Please, can you note what I did in the comments, beautiful people? What I did, right, was because we changed the speed of it on Friday and it was too slow for some people. So what I've done is I've done a compromise, whereas Fridays was something like post every 60 seconds or something. Now it's post every 30 seconds. See how that works for you in the comments there. Lots of thank yous to Tom. Timmer says, spot on, Tom. I'd love to visit Russia, but I will put it on a list if I did. Oh, yeah, but I'll be put on a list if I did. Oh, I hear that. Here we go again. I hear that. Letter to Brezhnev, says CHB. Thanks, Tom, says Shalini. Catherine is still waiting for a hire car. Simon says he just can't behave in the comments. I'm sure you're behaving beautifully, Simon. I'm sure you are. I have to. It was a great insight, Kat. Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. Really appreciate that. We so deserve the truth, and we don't get the truth, right? We very rarely get the truth. Talking about the truth, let us talk to somebody who feels we're being constantly lied to. And I can dig that. Oh, yes, I can dig that. Yes, I can. Because it's happening all the time, isn't it? That is the reality. Here he is. Good morning, Graham Moore.
Good morning, Sonia, and your wonderful audience.
Good to have you with us. Graham has been with us before. English Constitution Society. And when I was going on about the Fabian Society last week, as a consequence of one of our beautiful viewers said, you talk about the Fabians, but tell me a bit more. And so I did talk a bit more. And then I saw a comment which said, if you want to know about the Fabians, get Graham Moore back on. I was like, wait, I know Graham. So Graham, when I say the Fabian Society to you, bearing in mind that it is 9:31 a.m. on a Monday morning and we're on YouTube, what comes to mind?
They are the most subversive international organisation in the world. They control the working class via the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, etc. They're the people who fund them. And again, so their core element, what they actually despise, hate with a vengeance, is the English common law jurisdiction, because it is the ultimate social justice system. It is the complete reverse of communism, fascism, etc., and it gives people individual rights. So if people really want to understand what's going on in the world today, understand this, that 141 Fabians were elected as members of parliament this round. Prior to that, it was a lot more. The whole cabinet currently in Starmer is an executive Fabian member. Sadiq Khan is an executive Fabian member. And they are completely organised, lethal and subversive. Their whole auspice, if you like, is subversion bit by bit, and they've been going since Karl Marx. The first element of them was in 1864.
Yeah, right. And was it 1900 that they formed the London School of Economics, I think, around about there?
Absolutely. And the people who fund the London School of Economics, believe it or not, is Goldman Sachs. There was a guy called Peter Sutherland. He's recently died. This is one thing that people don't get. It's an attack on the Commonwealth. It's an attack on Commonwealth countries. And when I talk about the Commonwealth, I'm not talking about any form of political union. I'm talking about the Commonwealth of common law jurisdictions. So just to give you an example, the first president of the United Nations was a Fabian from Australia. They infiltrated. Everyone should have heard of the slow march through the institutions. That's the communist vibe. They basically went through the judiciary, the education system, the university system, every element of what now runs our country is Fabian. The most, Tony Blair, Fabian, Gordon Brown, Fabian. The last time we had a complete Fabian cabinet, just to let you know, we went to war with Iraq on a lie.
This is the thing is people don't realize. Some people even came to me last week after I talked about them, sent me emails saying I'd never heard of them before. And that's really the whole point, isn't it? They're like the power behind the throne. And it's very interesting because their logo was a tortoise, right? About the whole idea that they would move very slowly, but their coat of arms, which formerly was obviously a wolf in sheep's clothing, which they changed because I think there's only so much in plain sight that they can cope with, frankly, right? But you did a very interesting thing, and it was national news, actually. On January the 13th, 2018, you led a group that arrested Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan, of course, the eco-fascist who is once again the mayor of London, to most of our horror. And to tell us about that, and why was he not arrested? But on what basis could you arrest him?
Well, that's a good question. And it was part of the strategy to start to bring people the message of the Fabians. So we had a group basically called the Dragons. I'm known online as Daddy Dragon. And the reason for that, people say, where did you get that name? Is because the original flag of England was a dragon. So then people started calling me the father of the English, and then they cut it short to Daddy Dragon. So just to make sure everyone aware, Daddy Dragon comes from the original flag of England. So we devised a way of making people aware, and it had to be live. We're not criminals. We believe in the English Constitution. We believe in the rule of law. And so we paid for tickets to the Fabian Conference Centre and the Fabian first political conference of the year, where Sadiq Khan, an executive member of the Fabian Society, was basically given his first maiden speech of the year. And what we did was arrested him. People don't realise that the power of the subject of the realm of England and Wales, I may add, is that you have the power of arrest. And what we did was citizens arrested Sadiq Khan for subverting the English Constitution, because that is subversion of the Constitution is their key. That is what they're doing. There is nothing else to their agenda but to destroy the common law of England.
They're not here for us. Absolutely been apparent over the last month. They're not here for us. The attack on British people and English people has been shocking. Absolute betrayal, no doubt about it. So the thing is, but you also conducted something of a citizen's arrest on Keir Starmer as well. So you saw him as up and coming then, right?
So Keir Starmer, there was 4 individuals that were executive members. Keir Starmer was there. So although the focus of the cameras was not on Keir Starmer, he was there. He was also arrested as part of that. If you look at the actual document that was written out, it actually tells you what the warrant says. It's a citizen's arrest. We're perfectly entitled to do it. This is the strange thing. I was on the phone to the police because we actually called for police assistance. So I rang the police and said, we have made a citizen's arrest. So obviously on the CAD reference and the call, the police operator said, who have you arrested? And I said, Sadiq Khan. And it went quiet. And she went, who? I said, Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London. And she went, what for? I said, subverting the English Constitution. And we're there. There's 50 of us. We need assistance. So the police come in. Wow. And then they basically, the Fabian Society tried to usher us out and then said, we're going to have you arrested for trespass. I said, you can't arrest us for trespass. It's a civil offence. And the second thing, we paid for tickets. The only way we're going to leave is if you give us our money back, right? So obviously at £50 a ticket, they had to agree to pay us back our money. And then we went outside and obviously the cameras. Even to my knowledge, Donald Trump watched it live and started laughing and clapping when he saw the citizens standing up arrest. So I just want everyone to know, if you see a crime, there's a difference between a police constable and a citizen of the realm, right? And the only difference is the police constable takes an oath, and they can't be a police constable unless they take that oath, and they do have to know the Constitution. The most important thing is every citizen of this country can arrest someone as long as they see the crime in progress, right? So that subversion was happening in front of us. It's been happening for well in excess of a century. So we stood up as citizens of England and said, you are subverting the Constitution. The last real case of that nature was called the Cato Conspiracy in 1820, when a group of conspirators against the English Constitution, and if you go and read the archives, which is I read the archives, not the nonsense that comes from the British media, when you read that and you read the charge sheet, it tells you that they, by the way, they were hung. The sentence was to be hung, drawn and quartered, and that was in 1820. subversion of the English constitution is treason, right? And people need to understand it is the most heinous offence in this country. There is nothing else above it. And currently, we have subversion of the English constitution. Our monarch is currently subverting the English constitution. Our parliament is currently subverting the English constitution. And so, obviously, is the judiciary. And it is important for everyone to understand this is a full-on communist, Marxist takeover and destruction of England. That's what regionalisation is all about. The flag behind me is Manchester. I'm currently in Manchester. Yesterday, we was at the Peterloo Massacre Memorial, and that was in support of the people who died for our vote, working class people who were hacked to death, men, women and children, by the British in 1819 because they stood up for the vote. They were unarmed. Who was in the crowd, subverting the crowd and pretending to throw stuff and do all sorts of stuff? The state, the British state. And nothing has changed. That's the point. They're still attacking us. And these people have just continued through history to destroy England.
So there's a lot to unpack there. So here's the thing, right? So obviously the first logical thing is, if you arrested them, why weren't they imprisoned, right? Now, but as you say, the whole idea was to raise awareness of what they were actually doing, right? So that worked. That was headline news. So that worked, right? But what we're increasingly trying to do around here is find actual solutions, right? Because we're all sick of being in the same soup, going round and round and round again. The attack on working class people over the last month has been unconscionable. I come from good working class stock. We're fighters, right? And I'm not having it. I'm just not having it. Clearly, to me, it appears to me that the Fabian is just full of champagne socialists. And, you know, it is very much an attack on working British people, no doubt about it. But what can we really do, Graham? Because as you say, right, they have the police on their side. They have the army on their side. What can we actually do within the law? Do we need to come together en masse and make these kind of arrests?
Sonia, I absolutely love what you've just said. Let me just tell everyone, I am about solutions, 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 and the Constitution is the solution. It needs to be enforced at every level, and people need to understand their constitutional rights and common law rights. Their common law right is passive resistance. If you go and have a look at our history, and especially the English, we have what's known as ancient usage rights. And those ancient usage rights are to stand up against tyranny. When the state turns on us, we turn on them. The first level of that is passive resistance. Gandhi beat the British. This is the British regime, by the way. People need to understand. When I talk of England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland, I'm not being disrespectful to any of them nations. What the globalists want, and the British are the core element to that, is to destroy nation states for a global communist government, right? So how do you stand up? The answer to that is passive resistance. Gandhi did it. He beat the British. You must stand up passively. You must be organised, but you must be constitutionally aware. You need people like me to train you in the Constitution, and then you stand up. You have the right. And I'm going to give you an example of this. When we have been on demonstrations, and I've been on many, and faced with the riot squad, with shields, with batons, etc., and they draw batons on you, and all you are doing is passively resisting the state, they are technically assaulting you, right? Assault is the threat of violence. It isn't actual battery. So people need to understand, when a police officer draws a baton on you and you are passively resisting the state, that is an offence. If in numbers there is enough of you, you can arrest them police officers, because technically they're committing an assault on you, and all you've done is stood up for your constitutional rights, which are internationally known, right? So that's the first thing. You need passive resistance. You need to be organised. The communists are organised. The Marxists are organised at every level. By the way, there's another group of people that are not known. The next level of our arrest was a group of people called Common Purpose.
I know Common Purpose. They've infiltrated every organisation from the Metropolitan Police to City Hall, you name it. Yes, absolutely.
Right, and so what Common Purpose do is tell their people, and I'm talking about senior police officers, judiciary, judges, barristers, lawyers, you name it, teachers, etc. What they tell them is act outside of your authority. They're telling people to act unlawfully. That is subversion of our legal system. And these are the people that are being paid millions of pounds in pensions. They're being given pay rises as we speak. So the communists in this country who are running this country, they're getting their pensions increased. Most people don't realise that chief constables on average get between £300,000 and £500,000 when they retire as a tax-free lump sum in their back pocket.
Wow.
That's the bribe.
Wow. Yeah, it is a bribe, isn't it? That's the thing. But the thing is I think, I mean, I've been an observer and a chronicler of these things for a very, very long time, but I've never seen, I don't think, such speed as I've seen in the last month in order to be able to bring forth their various measures. And the attack on British people has been unconscionable, frankly. But you're absolutely right. Passive resistance is absolutely vital, because the moment it turned into something else out there, look what they've done with it. The silencing of people on social media. They're releasing sex offenders and taking in people who have said something iffy on social media, Graham.
Yep.
This is where we are. And that is as a consequence of people losing their heads out there, largely, right? They used it as an excuse, didn't they?
But remember, a similar situation happened in 1819 with Peterloo. And if you go back to Robert Peel, he actually made a speech about this during a later Parliament, where he spoke about Peterloo, the massacre of the British state. And basically, it was the Cheshire Yeomanry that cavalry charged unarmed, 70,000 unarmed working class people who didn't have to vote. They was just standing up peacefully. And one of their declarations that day, which they needed to stop, was a declaration not to pay taxes, right? So when you understand them events, but this is the crucial part. So Robert Peel actually said, and stated in Parliament, in Hansard, by the way, he actually said there were subversive elements from the state in the crowd who were instructed to incite and create criminality from that crowd. So they was actually instigating the violence, and then the yeomanry said, look what the crowd are doing, and come in with their swords drawn. They actually killed men, women and children, just to make sure everyone's aware. This was a massacre of working class people. If you look at the history, you'll understand that nothing has changed. They're doing exactly the same thing, except the names change, but the actual sphere of what they're trying to do, which is control you. So there's lots of things that people need to understand. The problem is you've got all of these different, there are some people that are still considered to be subversive on their side, and they're drawing people into these other groups of people. They shut down my platform on PayPal 5 years ago. No one said a word. They've shut down my YouTube channels with you know, lots of followers. When I say lots, I mean tens of thousands of people. I used to get live streams with 10,000 people watching me, right? They've shut me down. All I do, I'm not here to lie to people. I'm here to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God, right? Why do they shut me down? Because they know I'm telling people the truth, and they've seen us organise in the past. They've seen us organise. So let me just make sure people are aware. After that event in January of 2018, many people, and I'm probably talking tens, possibly hundreds, left the Fabian Society, because the people involved with the Fabian Society who didn't realise what they were started to investigate who they were and left. So now people are understanding this group is evil. By the way, they've took control of South Africa. It's the Fabian Society. So when you look at South Africa, don't forget what I said about common law jurisdictions. When they infiltrated at every single level. And now what you're seeing going on in South Africa, the turmoil, the hatred towards white people, all of that is geared from the Fabians. What they do is they take working class, normal everyday work, listen, I don't care what colour you are. I don't care what religion you are. And just make sure I'm clear on this. The English Constitution does not mention race anywhere. Absolutely nowhere does it mention race. All it says is you cannot have ecclesiastical laws, in other words, religious laws that completely control and send you to prison. You can't have that under English common law or the Constitution. And it doesn't matter what the religion is. That's the point. But it nowhere
all good
does it
people
mention
need
race.
to come together, and we need to stop being divided by these people. If you, and that is the thing, is obviously they play us like fiddles, don't they? Like on a constant basis, let's divide you up here, because it's obviously divide and conquer, and it works every sodding time, Graham. It frustrates me so much. But thank you. I think that's a really important insight you've given. I think some people will be shocked to hear how dangerous you consider the Fabians to be, because obviously they've been portrayed, as the sort of the socialist backbone of Labour, who want good for everybody so that everybody can equally share in a world. But it's that's not what it's about, is it? And we've actually seen that, and it's very, very troubling. Where can people find out more, Graham?
They can come along to my channel now is on Rumble, and again, Rumble is under attack. Rumble or X. I'm live every night. It's called The Full English Show. And what I do is talk about English common law and, most importantly, the Constitution. It's live every night at 8 p.m. And it goes Monday to Friday. I've been doing it for well in excess of 10 years. Did have a really large following. Again, they've took down a channel on YouTube. They took me off of Facebook. By the way, Nick Clegg, just to let people know, the previous Deputy Prime Minister is also a Fabian. He now resides in the United States of America, and he is the lead censor for Facebook, or what some people call Fascist Book.
Well, I once doorstepped Nick Clegg in the middle of a Lib Dem conference on Budget Day. Actually, it's on YouTube, and we sort of crashed in on their press conference, and it didn't go at all how they wanted it to. Let me read you some of these comments. Graham Merv says, "Thanks, Graham. I did not know that. Thank you, Graham," says Vonicles. "This is a great interview." Many thanks, Graham. I will check out your show. Nobby says, "Much as Graham might be right, he will achieve nothing. This is a wasted effort." But if you already start off from that position, what can you possibly achieve? Right? Because it's that old saying, isn't it, Graham? And that is, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, either way is right. Right?
Let me just say this to your audience member. Since I've been doing this, more and more people have become aware of the Fabian Society, so much so that a guy called Eric Trump has read and understands a book called The High Road, the Fabian High Road into the USA. And if anyone goes and reads that book, you'll get a good understanding of who and what the Fabians are. And if Eric Trump has read that book, because of messages like people like me, that just shows.
Spread the word.
Let me finish on this, right? Every journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
Well, there's so much support for you here. Kat says, "Thank you, Graham. A lot clicked today." And I think that's important. Drumstick already wants you back. Drummy's still on the screen, right? And Robert says, "Graham, I'm going to research the Constitution now, bless you." And that's what's important. Each one teach one. And that's exactly what you've just said about Eric Trump. Thank you so much for joining us on this bank holiday, Graham. Absolutely appreciated, everybody. It's Graham Moore. Have an excellent week. Take good care of yourself, Graham. We will put a link in the description to where people can catch you every night. Take good care of yourself.
And you, be lucky.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. And I think these insights are so important. Like, just so important. And I honestly, I take that point. Who was it who said it? Where is it going to go to? And I take that point because it's frustrating, isn't it? That we see these absolute criminals in high office. And what are we able to do? It is frustrating. I do understand. I do take that. Right. Before I bring in my next guest, let's have a look at some of the other news. Obviously, I'm sure I know that somebody made a comment about this on Friday, and I'm addressing it now. So let me see. Yes, That is Richard Medhurst, Syrian-British independent journalist. He was arrested at London's Heathrow Airport, held for nearly 24 hours for allegedly running afoul of a controversial anti-terrorism law. But critics say that this is being used to silence legitimate dissent. And Medhurst has become known for opposing the US and opposing Israeli war crimes in the Middle East. Let me just read you some of what he said. He said, I criticised the Terrorism Act before getting on the plane, then got arrested under the Terrorism Act upon landing. Can't make this up. He posted a nearly 9-minute video on X where he was talking about it. He said, they arrested me, not detained. They arrested me under Section 12 of the Terrorism Act of 2000 and accused me of allegedly, in quotes, expressing an opinion or belief that is supportive of a prescribed organization, but wouldn't explain what this meant. And so the thing is, obviously, the controversial law, it criminalizes anyone who is said to invite support for a proscribed organization, such as Hamas, as one example. Medhurst said he was searched, handcuffed, taken in a police van to a station where he was searched again. He was fingerprinted. He said, no one in the world knew what happened to me or where I was. I had to ask like 4 or 5 different guards for several hours until I finally received a call. In total, I spent almost 24 hours in detention. At no point whatsoever was I allowed to speak to a family member or a friend. After waiting 15 hours, I was finally interviewed by 2 detectives. And Medhurst goes on to say that he felt the whole process was designed really to intimidate him, to dehumanize him, to humiliate him, treat him like a criminal. He said, even though they must be aware of my background as a journalist, I would suggest that that was exactly why you were arrested, because of your background as a journalist. He contended that the arrest was done on purpose to try and rattle him psychologically. And bear in mind, he is neither the first nor likely to be the last who will be put through such a similar thing. For example, Grey Zone correspondent Kit Clarenberg, he went through a very similar thing, as indeed did Glenn Greenwald, the journalist, his late partner. And a number of other people. There was also Scottish author Craig Murray. He was put through something very similar as well. So this is very troubling, of course, because this is about the freedom of the press. The freedom of speech really is under attack from all areas. And if you are a journalist, you don't have to agree with Richard. But the point is, he is a journalist and he is speaking out. And it was very dubious why they arrested him. And the thing is that we all know we're all in some danger to a certain degree. If you speak out, you're in some danger. And what? I mean, the thing is, we can't be silenced. We mustn't be silenced. But that is the aim. The aim is, I absolutely, truly believe, without a question, that what has been going on over the last month is about silencing us, is about scaring us, is about saying, do not step out of line, do not criticize the government. Whereas this show is going in full pelt. We're not only going to criticize, we're going to work out how to take it down in a non-violent way for anybody out there. We are not advocating violence around here at all. But we are saying that there is a real problem with the people in power. And we, the British people, have a constitution, whether you like it or not. And before I bring in my next guest, we talked about the deaths of tech billionaire Mike Lynch on Friday, and that of his co-defendant, Stephen Chamberlain, in a separate and quite stunningly coincidental accident. Sadly, Mike's daughter Hannah was found on Friday. Very sad, only 18, barely started her life. And now we hear that Mike actually had huge plans to establish a British project similar to the Innocence Project in the US. The Innocence Project is an organisation that examines and campaigns against miscarriages of justice. And what we've heard from MP David Davis, who has lots of problems, as indeed do I, with the convictions of former neonatal nurse Lucy Letby, is that he was already in talks with Mike. He said Mike was a world-class expert on probability theory and saw straight through the statistical weaknesses that underpinned the Letby prosecution. Now, David Davis is not suggesting that a conspiracy has taken place here, but just saying that that was what Mike Lynch was planning to do next. I do think it's odd that two people involved in a long-term fraud court case in the US to do with Hewlett-Packard, and which they won, and they were then killed, died, murdered, whatever it was, just after, just months after, and when they were actually celebrating their victory. I just do find that odd. I'm not sure I believe in coincidences. I'm really not sure I do. And but yeah, that apparently was going to be his next move, which would have been brilliant because we need something like that, right? Oh, Randy, what's that? In Danish constitution, it's called Grundlov. Have I pronounced that right? Which equals ground law, the ground we stand on. And Elaine thinks definitely something amiss there. Are you still doing videos? Used to enjoy them. Hope you're well. Trevor who? Hello, Trevor. Good morning to you. And good morning to you too, Paul. Paul, did you send me something to do with cats, dogs, and kittens? I saw it on my email. I must read that later. That Sly said there's no such thing as coincidence. Something very off with that yacht accident, says Shalini. And I like that, Randy. If you have no ground, both literal and in principles, you are lost. I'm going to welcome in my old mucker now. I'm going to welcome in my old mucker. It's been a long time. It has. And where is he? And any second now. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Are you there, VJ? Hello? Hello? Well, that's odd. Why have we got a blank screen? There he is. Woo, woo! Ah, big hug to you, everybody. It is
Hello.
Dave VJ,
Hello.
my old friend.
I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you
Can you hear me?
beautifully.
Can you hear me?
VJ,
I can hear you very well.
I can hear you beautifully. Can you hear that, VJ?
Good morning.
So lovely to have you with us, everybody. This is somebody who's known me for an awful long time. Gee, VJ, we must know each other now 30 years at least, right? Must be 30 years.
Hello.
Yeah, man. It's so wonderful to have you with us. Dave VJ. VJ, you were original Carnival sound clash. Beautiful stuff. Mastermind. Dave, let's reminisce,
Absolutely.
mate. Let's reminisce. Let us reminisce. Now, as I said to you at the start of the show, lovely people, likelihood is I wouldn't be here were it not for this man on the screen. He literally recognized my talents and my broadcasting abilities and gave me my first broadcasting job on his show that he had with Max LX, Dave VJ. There's a massive delay, he's telling me in the comment. Do you, VJ, if you've got any like phones or anything on around you, because they could be sort of sapping the energy in some way. Can you hear that? Hello? How much of a delay have we got, love? Hello? Well, this is weird. Can you not hear me? No, you've got to hear me. What's going on? Chat, can you hear me?
All right. Well, I'll try. I'll turn them off. I'll turn them. It's really bad. Maybe I should go out and come back in.
You could do that, and I'll let you back in again. Sometimes it will reset like that. Yeah, pop out, pop back in again. Right, I'm going to talk to you. No, he's not my ex, Hector. Get a grip. This is an old buddy of mine. I can hear you, he said. Oh, let me wipe my nose. Maybe reconnect. Yeah. What? Let's go down on memory lane. Oh, yes. So when I wonder what Mike had been working on. Ah, there you go. I have no idea what's going on here. Saturday night jamboree, Wayne Jarrett and Silver Fox Carnival. Teresa's out shaking it all about. Oh, yes, she is. Oh, yes, she is. And the thing is, I want to really address the issue of Carnival, because what you get every year is the same people on social media who are just petrified of just, black people being together and making up all manner of scandalous lies. And can we please bear in mind that it's estimated that this year alone, Carnival is going to bring in £200 million for Londoners. Right? It's an awful lot of money. And actually, comparatively, when you compare it to like football matches and everything, what's this? Image of Sonia and what's it? Randy loves it. Dave, can you hear me, mate? Is that better? That is so weird. You're just on ordinary Zoom, right? Wait, Soldier, you were 51 yesterday. Happy birthday. Shout out to you. Dave VJ, can you hear me now? It's not working. This is Teresa, I love Carnival. I love Carnival too. And what's going on? VJ, hello? Can you hear me at all? Maybe take off those headphones. Take off the headphones. Take them off. Take them off. Oh, this would be such a pain. This would be such a pain if I'm not able to talk to him. Such a pain. Tony says 77 Brigade. And Tech Gremlins, Shalini. Absolutely. Swapping headphones. Do that, mate. Do that, mate. Press the switch down. Carnival is the best. So here's the thing is happy birthday to you, Soldier. Yes. Greg says, tell him to try using the laptop, tablet, microphone and audio rather than those headphones. Right. No, this is not a sound expert I am talking to, Monopods. This is a DJ. And do a quiz while we wait. Now, I can bring you some news, right, while we wait. Let me flip onto something else. Let me flip onto something else. Because I can do that. Because I'm a juggler. That's actually my nickname. Does everybody know that that's my nickname? Right, let me move on to this just while we're waiting, because this really irritated me yesterday. See if that will work for him. I hope it does. It would be such a pity. VJ, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Hallelujah. Praise the good Lord.
Yes.
Excellent. I can hear you, mate. I can hear you, mate. Right, let's go back. Let's go back. So, as I say, I've known you about 30 plus years. And actually what happened was you and Max, who was your DJ partner at the time, both of you had come from Mastermind, and you and Max had a Kiss FM show, and you brought me in to do your street knowledge section, and Malou Halassa did the intro to it. It was like something like Bocca, 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 Sonia Poulton. Do you remember?
Oh my God. Wow, you got such a good memory.
I remember that. And I was your weekly street knowledge correspondent. And Dave, I have to say to you, mate, looking back now, that was really brave of you. And the reason why it was really brave of you is you brought in a white woman onto a hip hop show. And that was a very brave move, mate. It was very brave because you recognized that I had ability rather than just looking at the color of my skin. And I really appreciate that so much. I really do. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of those days, right? You have toured with pretty much everybody like me, right? Tell us about some of your favorite people that you've toured with or interviewed.
Well, first of all, good morning to you. Good to see you. Right. And we'll actually be hooking up in the flesh next week. In fact, sorry, the end of this weekend, because we haven't seen one another. This is my first time back to the UK in 5 years. And God, it's cold. Jesus. So for some people might think it's not cold. Yeah, they might think it's not cold, but I've just come from where every day it's a minimum of 28 degrees. Right?
Where are you? Antigua, aren't you?
That's correct. And my only drama is when I come out my gate, when I'm driving out, I just got to shoo the goats or the sheep away or the horses away. That's it. That's the only drama. Life is so simple there. And once again, before we start, let me just go back to what you were saying about giving you a chance. I didn't think about anything other than I think she could do a good job. Some people, you can say, well, skin color. Listen, it's culture that matters, not skin color for me. Okay. because I can't go and get some black person who's 70 who doesn't know anything about hip hop. It just doesn't make any sense. I've got to get the people who lived our culture. You know, I lived it every single day, and because of hip hop, I'm here now. I might not be playing Mob Deep or DMX or whatever's going on now. You know, Scissor, whoever, you know, whoever people think are hip hop heads, but it's still in my blood. As a person who follows a particular culture, so if you're a Jewish person, right, and just because you don't go to synagogue every day doesn't stop you from being a Jewish person. You are still always a Jewish person. You just didn't go to synagogue.
Exactly. Exactly. And we had the best time. We worked together on that because then Kiss went legal and
Yes.
we worked together on that 5 years. 5 years we did that. And it was a every Tuesday night. We had a blast. I loved it. Sometimes I'd be in fact, I actually remember reporting from the O.J. Simpson trial to Street Knowledge, right? I was in America when that happened. Like it was, we were making waves at the time. It was so exciting. It really was. And in fact, it was Dave who rang me one Sunday morning to inform me that Biggie Smalls had been murdered. I remember it clearly, Dave, as if it was yesterday, because I hadn't long interviewed him. And it was you who rang me and said he's been murdered. And I was in shock because it was only a few months after Tupac. And it was like, wait a second, something's going really badly wrong here. That whole East Coast, West Coast divide, it was a horrible time, wasn't it? And it was, do you think it was, I mean, many people now look back and say, oh, that was manufactured in order to be able to sell a lot of records. Do you think it was?
I think it was manufactured in order to sell a lot of magazines. That's the start of it.
Ooh.
So it was, what was it? I think it was XXL. I think that started the problem off. And they manufactured something to sell the magazine without actually realizing. Sorry, well, I wouldn't say not realizing, without thinking of the consequences. Because the problem with a lot of journalists, like you're standing there and the house is burning down, but you're a human being, and if you stay there long enough, you will die. And they're like, it's that superhuman thing. I'm not going to die because I'm a journalist. Well, you will. And even if nothing happens to you, there's people in that house that's burning down. And that's the problem. And the difference between you and a lot of journalists, because you was a hip hop head. So you was talking from inside of the sources. You wasn't standing on the outside going, rapper Bobby Brown. Well, Bobby Brown isn't a rapper. You know what I mean? It's like, even to this day, I have to, as an older person now, I try to pull it together when I hear rubbish like that. I remember I was living in Runcorn, in the north of England, and I was driving back to London. I'm not sure why, see family, whatever. And I was listening to somebody, I don't know who it was, on Radio 2, and they were playing a Bobby Brown record, and they were blah, 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 and that's rapper Bobby Brown. And I could have crashed the car thinking, oh my God, this is 2000 and whatever, and you're still saying that rubbish.
Oh, because they no clue. But the thing is, what people don't realize, first of all, I believe that we lived through the absolute golden era of hip hop.
Absolutely.
Right? Without a shadow of a doubt, like that was proper. So when I look back at some of the artists now who I had the great pleasure of not only interviewing or touring with, whether that was, Public Enemy or the Jungle Brothers or Tribe Called Quest or Snoop Dogg or whomever, brilliant proper hip hop. I can't relate to a lot of it now. I can't. And the thing is that I naturally gravitated towards it because, again, immaterial of background, I actually could really relate to the social messages that were being portrayed in hip hop. The fact that it was about a lot of injustice, and I loved those social messages, and I could really, and it obviously became very political, and I loved that as well. And you had brilliant acts like Public Enemy, and I remember the first time I interviewed Public Enemy, they didn't want to be interviewed by me, and they didn't want to be interviewed by me because they said that they didn't feel that I would have an understanding about it. But after that first interview, VJ, I interviewed them 7 times, including them inviting me to Long Island, right? Because once I'd broken through that first time, they were like, yeah, she's all right. Actually, she's all right. And that was the thing. We had to deal with a lot of that. But I loved those times, VJ. I did love those times. But here's the thing, is that what was interesting at that moment in time was that hip hop was definitely becoming all powerful. It was starting to break through into the charts. It was starting to become huge, but never British hip hop. It didn't really take off in that same way. They were isolated. Why do you think that happened that way? Why do you think we were so dominated by American culture?
I have a complete answer. I've just done a talk. Shout out to Andy Franklin. I did the same thing. They did a Saturday gone. I was in High Wycombe at a place called Tones. And a friend, I didn't even know anything about this. I was asked to do a gig. And then he said, by the way, we're going to do a Q&A with you before you play. It turned out we ended up doing a Q&A and no playing at all because it was such an interesting conversation. And the guy who owned it, whose name I can't remember, is actually one of Bunny Bread's crew.
Oh, yeah.
Bunny, remember
I remember Bunny literally used to throw bread out at the audience.
Yeah. So that was the same thing. It was like, let's sit there and let's talk about those days. So I told a lot of stories. And one of the stories, or in fact, I just realized that this was a one-on-one conversation afterwards. I didn't say this while I was doing the interview. So I can tell you exactly why I think it didn't work. First of all, we were trying to copy a culture that wasn't ours. That's the first thing. Secondly, the first part comes into the second part, which is if you are Jay-Z, who, by the way, is not the world's best rapper, but he's very clever with his words. Very clever with his words.
And got good connections.
Yeah. What you have to understand is it's about, I'm just trying to find the right word so the audience can understand. Okay, if you're an opera singer, but you love country and western, sing opera because your voice might not be suited. And so Jay-Z chooses records that enhances his talent. And that's why it works. So when we first started with British hip hop, we were using American accents, including me, because I used to do, fake rap, whatever. And what we would do is we would choose stuff that didn't suit us. What really suited us is what I believe works now with the grime scene. I love what's going on now because the UK has a culture of their own. Whether you like it or not, the rap scene has a culture of their own. Now, they may not necessarily call it rap, but it's definitely a sister or a brother of that. So the people now, they choose backing tracks that suit their style. That's the thing, that if you can't recognize that, you're not going to go anywhere.
No.
So that's that, a lot of, I won't call anybody's names because I'm still friends with some of them now and I don't want to offend anybody, but a lot of them who were great rappers didn't choose the right backing tracks. So so it just didn't marry.
And also the dominant culture of America was piling in as well. I mean, I managed one of the best British hip hop bands, and that was the Demon Boys. And that was because they harnessed what was absolutely great about being British, right? They sounded British. They didn't try to sound American. I actually did manage an American hip hop band, PLZ, Reggie and Freddie, with the fantastic DJ Pogo. And so I had both. So I agree with you. And I think that was because the dominant culture of hip hop was coming from America. And so many people felt that they had to emulate it rather than actually be our own culture, show our own culture. And I think that was partly what held it back. But also in the UK, we have long been overly impressed with American culture, not just in hip hop, right? Whether that is TV or whatever, pop music or whatever. And it's had a dominance, hasn't it? It's been given a priority. And I think
it's changed now.
Yeah.
Because first of all, when you listen to rap, because I've got a tendency of running away and not actually giving proper explanation. So
don't worry, I'll pull you back in. I know you.
So the first thing is that you have to understand that's all we had, right? And so that was as you said, it was the dominant thing. That was our precursor to a world that seemed like it was exciting, it was sexy, dangerous. But if you came from where I came from, and a lot of the people who did it, they also come from. So if you come from me, well, I come from Brent. So there's Harles and Wilson, Neasden, Stonebridge, etc. So if you come from those areas in those days, you know that it was drugs, right? You come from Tottenham and then places, that's what it is, or was anyway. I don't know about now. And when I remember going to America, And first of all, I'm going to tell you something, Sonia, that you may not know. When I first got into rap, didn't like it. What I was into was the DJ techniques, right? Didn't like the music because it just didn't resonate with me. What changed everything for me was going to Bentley's on a Sunday night where you had to actually have your person stand guard at the door so you didn't get robbed, right? And Derek B was the DJ, and what he would do is he would always play new stuff that he just got the day before as you walked in. And the record that changed everything for me was Eric B for President, because that record I just couldn't believe this guy had slow flow, just like reggae records, because I come from a reggae background. But he made sense. He was telling a story. And when I heard those words, I came in the door, I said it before, never let the mic magnetize me no more. I was like, this is great, but let me wait for it to go wrong, because it will. And it never did for the whole 3 minutes. I was like, Jesus Christ. And I went, this is it. This is it for me. Didn't know I was going to be a DJ in that world. I was already DJing. I just didn't know it was going to be this. Then, of course, I've gone to America. I've gone to the Roxy. I've seen Africa Islam, and their style of DJing is applied to every style, no matter what they're playing. So I remember walking into the Roxy. Is it Roxy? Yes, it was. It was Roxy. Lady Blue was running it. It was the roller rink. And as we walked in, Africa Islam was playing Rocket by Herbie Hancock. But he made a speech which just completely astounded me before he actually went to play it. And that was, I'm sick of playing this record. This is the last time I'm going to play it. And that time, I only heard it the day before I got on the plane to go to America. And he took him off, and he had promo versions. We were selling them on CBS. He had promos from Colombia. Took him off and threw them into the crowd. His next record was David Bowie, Let's Dance. And he did exactly what I thought I should be doing, but was too scared to do. And that was cut up a David Bowie record, Let's Dance. And he went to the break and went absolutely crazy. And I was like, that's it. I have arrived. Because somebody from America gave me permission to do that. And so when, like, one of the big records at the time was Shout by Tears for Fears. And there's an American version which has a much bigger break and a much louder, much sexier, much bass-heavy break. And then all of us in the UK got that. And then all of a sudden it was like, I used to cut up Bryan Adams, I Need Somebody, because I now found out what a break was what I made it. It's whatever I made the break. That's it.
Exactly.
That was it.
Exactly. Exactly. These were wonderful times that you're talking about. I mean, I'm so grateful that this is part of my history. I'm sure it's made me, to be honest with you, VJ, I mean, you know what I'm like anyway. I've always been able to stand up for myself, but I'm absolutely certain that my hip hop background has made me like as tough as I can be, because I had to deal with a lot of stuff, right? A lot of stuff. I had death threats. I had all manner of stuff that was leveled at me for being involved in hip hop. It never changed me, because I loved it, and I still love it now, and I'm still really grateful. And I still have many people who were involved in hip hop then, like your good self. So what about Carnival, VJ? Because is Carnival the same as it used to be? Oh, wait.
I'm just trying to get rid of this call because people have now realised that I'm in the UK, and they're my phone. I've had, this is the best sleep I've had in the last couple of days. I'm in Archway at the moment, and my phone has been going crazy because I'm also the manager of a station in Antigua, so I'm on call 24/7. So Carnival, right? Carnival. I have been playing there probably about 30 years. I've been playing there. I haven't played there.
Wow.
Since that. There's actually a picture. I don't even know where it is, but my dad, God rest his soul, because he's passed away now. He has a picture of me on his shoulders that was taken by my brother's godfather. I think late 60s. So I was 5, 6, something like that. I'm 63 now, right? And I was on my dad's shoulders, and that kind of family member took the picture and then presented it to us maybe about 20 years later, because we hadn't seen them. And that was one of the first carnivals. I actually started playing there in the 80s. Now Mastermind, which is where I'm going to play today, and by the way, I think we have a special guest. I can't say who it is because it's my son's friend. My son is actually going to MC for me today when I DJ, which is incredible. So what happened was I was in Mastermind. How I got there was they had a lot of DJ gigs, not enough DJs. And I wasn't really a DJ. I was just somebody who knew a lot about music. And I grew into the DJ thing. And I could always come back to that if you want. Anyway, so I think we only played for we made our name maybe for about a 3-year period, just like Kiss. Kiss was only on air for about 2 years, but we became legendary. And that's what drove us to getting the license. And the reason why, nobody wants to hear this, but I'm going to say it. The reason why Kiss was given a license is because we were doing parties that had thousands of people. And once that train is out of the station, it's about, you can't stop it. So then you control it. And if you know anything about Kiss, Kiss has just actually been removed from the FM dial in about a month ago.
Really? Because it became a pop station. I mean, that's what it did. It just became a pop station, and it just wasn't anything like it at all. People are like shooting names at me. Gunshot. I remember Gunshot. I mean, Colin used to also be in Son of Noise, who I also managed, right?
Yeah.
And Sasha's remembering lovely Norman J. Norman J, I remember interviewing him in my flat in Harrow Road. And actually, where my flat was built on was an original rave venue, he said to me.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Right. So it goes, honestly, Souls of Mischief. Yeah. People in the comments are remembering all these incredible bands and groups. Wonderful.
Wow.
It's wonderful. VJ, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time around here, but I must do a longer interview with you where we properly reminisce, right?
Yeah.
So you're staying for what? How long? Another week?
I leave on the 12th.
I will see you before then. 100% I will see you before then. I just wanted to see you on this screen today and let everybody know that this is the reason that I'm here today. And the thing is that I love you to bits, VJ. You're a dear old friend of mine. And I would do anything that if this man needs my help, he knows he only has to ask.
But just
I'm
like
loyal
you,
like that. Huh?
remember, just like you, when you say, can you do this thing? And you go, pretty please. Like, as soon as you say yes, as long as I'm free, I'm going to do it.
I know.
This afternoon, this afternoon I'm playing at Mastermind, which is at Sainsbury's, which is at the top of it's between Kensal Road and.
Oh, you're playing at Mastermind today?
Yes.
Oh my days!
Yeah.
I know that spot, right? I know that spot, right?
So I'm there at 4 o'clock with my son, and we're waiting for a confirmation on a special guest, but I can't tell you the person's name because we haven't. Let's just say if you like to party hard, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, he will be there.
Oh my God. If you happen to be there today, please go up and say, Jasmine said, yeah, get VJ back for more. We will get VJ back for more because he's only in, across the other side of the world. It's not a problem. Devon says a great catch up. It is. Thank you, Dave, says Soul Sound. VJ, I love you so much, my darling. Lovely to see you on our screen this morning, everybody. This is the incredible Dave VJ. Catch him at Carnival today. Lovely to see you, sweetheart.
See you, babe.
Absolutely lovely. Wonderful. I'm so glad we finally managed to get him on. I would have been so ticked off. I would not have been happy at all. I just like to reminisce every now and again, because this is also part of my history. Couldn't find any of my carnival whistles. Absolutely hopeless. Right. Let us turn to some news. And I do just want to address the issue of carnival, by the way, because you do have people on social media, like somebody like Isabel Oakeshott. Now, I appreciate Isabel Oakeshott was already saying yesterday, this is a crime fest. Now, I appreciate that Isabel Oakeshott is probably more comfortable around, I don't know, prime ministers who do odd things with pigs and stuff like that. But me, I'm more comfortable around the kind of people who like to party at carnival. And so you will have people like her who are going on social media about how much it costs. And actually, yes, the policing costs are high. No doubt about it. I'm just looking at them right now. So they're actually saying that the total cost for Notting Hill Carnival amounts to £11 million in 2023. That's an awful lot of money. But imagine if it's making 200 million for the London economy. And one of the reasons that you have people like Isabel Oakeshott and those very middle-class broadcasters going on about Carnival is because their mates live in those properties around Carnival and they don't like it. Carnival was there before their mates, right? Notting Hill, Ladbroke Grove, there long before the David Camerons of this world and the Goves and all those people who moved into that area, right? And that's one of the reasons that you get mainstream media going hard and heavy against Carnival, is because they live in that area and they don't want people in that area, right? But the fact is that comparatively, it is a very low crime rate compared to a football match. Listen, you go to Glastonbury, people die from ketamine, right? I'm not approving of somebody being stabbed yesterday. Not at all. Don't do it. Right? Yes, stop and search. Absolutely stop and search. People need to be safe at Carnival, but it's not what they claim it to be. And in fact, I've just been given in front of me an amended figure that, according to the Standard, Notting Hill Carnival is thought to generate as much as £300 million for the London economy. Right? But it was never about money. The first was actually held in the year that I was born, 1964, and racial tensions were running high, and Carnival was a strength of unity and remains so to today. It's one of the biggest celebrations of inclusion that we have in the UK, even though people who want to cause trouble for their own particular reasons. I'm not just talking about the thugs on the street. I'm talking about the thugs in mainstream media. So I love Carnival. I do love Carnival, and that is why I am also celebrating it here today. And that's what sets us apart here, right? We don't run with the mainstream media hounds. And can I just say a shout out to Kath out there. Kath, I don't know how much of this you did or didn't want me to read publicly, and I'm not going to. But I just want to send lots of love to your mum. Kath is having to deal with an absolute nightmare to do with the NHS. I mean, there's so much personal detail here, Kath. I don't even know what to do about it in terms of, other than to say, I'm really horrified with some of the details that you've talked about here, about the fact that your mum's not being fed properly. You're not ranting, darling. You're absolutely not. And you are absolutely right. This is a failure of our ability to care for our elderly population, and it is a shame on all of us. But contact me, Kath. I would be more than happy if you wanted to bring you on to talk about this in detail. But all I want you to know right now, my darling, is I send you massive, massive, massive love, and massive love to your mum as well. Okay, just want to say that. How are you out there in the comments? 10:31. They're talking about passive resistance. Thought Crime wants to know if my undercover cop mate Ash was present. Thought Crime, I would love to see your identity. Then we could have a proper conversation about undercover, because I don't think I can have a genuine conversation about who may or may not be undercover with somebody who hides their identity like yourself. Just a thought. Oh, Hugh, ride Carnival this week. How exciting. Craig has started a thing called Chatgate. Needs resolved before we take this to the next level. I'm dusting off my shirt for a live statement. Well, I look forward to it. Yes, take care, Catherine. Not at all. Not at all, Crazy Bunny. Sorry, Cat. Prayers for your mum. Absolutely. Absolutely. Or yes. Poor mum's going through emotional avalanche. Yes, poor Kath's going through an emotional avalanche with her poor mum. Yes, she is indeed. We wrap our wake-up arms around you, Kath. Craig is planning to get a silent chat as part of our protest. Watch you're not arrested by the police. You know how thought crimes are ill thought of around here. Oh, Pink Diamond, me who hides my identity. Yeah, but Pink Diamond, you're not out there going on about this person being undercover and that person being undercover. I have no problem, by the way, with people being anonymous online. The only time I have a problem with people being anonymous online is when they shout out stuff about other people, right? If you're going to make a statement about somebody else, you have to be prepared to reveal your identity. But if you're just online and I don't know, you're campaigning or you're just commenting, have your hide your identity if you wish. I don't agree that we should get rid of that ability for people. The internet traditionally has enabled and allowed people to be anonymous online, and I really don't have a problem as long as they're being decent. But if they are talking about and accusing other people of being controlled opposition or whatever, let me see your identity so we can work through this properly, right? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. What have we got here? What have we got here? And everybody send their love to Kath, as indeed we should. As indeed we should. Have you seen what's going on in Afghan, by the way? The Taliban passed a law that bans women from showing their faces and having their voices heard in public. Their burqas must now entirely cover their faces. They are not permitted to speak in public or to look at any males that are not relatives. I mean, if this is not the entire erasure of women and girls, I don't know what is. And you know what? It really absolutely, it kills me. Where are these international organizations, right? Where is Amnesty? Oh, wait, Amnesty is busy saying this is so brilliant that Giggle is forced to pay £10,000 for not allowing somebody on their app. That's what Amnesty is doing. But they're not fighting for the girls and women of Afghanistan. They're banned from school, work, travel, gyms. Their faces and voices legally erased, subjected to forced and underage marriages. They are living under a hell. Where is the international outcry for them? Where is it? I can't believe what these women and girls are having to endure. It's absolutely abhorrent. It really is. And the thing is, right, is you can see some of that stuff happening in the Western world. You can. And honestly, I'll be absolutely honest with you, is I am as uncomfortable seeing women in a burqa as I am uncomfortable seeing Kanye West parading around with his nude wife. Both of them feel like oppression to women, right? Because it's all about how these men have directed them to be. I'm uncomfortable with that. There's nothing liberating about what the Kardashians do or what women do on social media where they strip. They strip because that gets them attention. That is not, they're not empowered women. They're no more empowered women than these women who are being erased in Afghanistan. And there is, the Western women are often like, oh God, it's absolutely terrible what's happening over there. Look how free we are. You're not free. You're not free. If the only way you feel you can get attention is to show your nips on social media, you're not free. Girls, you're not free, right? And that's the reality. That's really the reality. And by the way, there's that year again, 2030. And I see that Mike Tapp, Labour MP, was on the media round yesterday, in particular on GB News. And he was saying, if we can go fully renewable by 2030, we will have more control over prices. Okay, so he's defending the government's plan to move towards renewable energy and argues that the long-term benefits will outweigh the short-term costs. What do we have to say about that, people? Do we believe them? Do we believe them? Because the fact is, we know that 2030, the green agenda, is really, again, another transference of wealth. It's about hijacking nature. It's about commodifying nature. None of this is good. And also talking about harnessing nature, weather manipulation, geoengineering, whatever you call it, call it. What was that warning for the UK yesterday? Did anybody see that? Don't go outdoors this morning. Brits given a health alert about a gas cloud tipped to fill the skies across the UK. Did anybody experience that? Did you experience that? It's abuse. I pose for my pick, right? He's not lying. More control over prices. Catherine, just, oh, what's that? There's a little man in the nature box, says Laid Back Media. What's that? What's that? What's that? Soul said, I'm going to take it that it's because it's bank holiday. We only have 246 likes. Hit it, please. Right. Let me see what's going on behind the screens. People, we have 2,330 views. How have we only got 5 likes or whatever? Listen to my mods. Please listen to them. Like, share, subscribe, and all those wonderful things that people often tell us, right? And let us not forget, it's Carnival. Listen, this is what comes with me. This is what comes with me, right? What's that, Pink Diamond? What did you just experience? Okay. Oh, I didn't experience that, but I did just come back from 2 weeks with no Wi-Fi in Spain. It sounds like I missed out on quite a lot, which is good. Well, a lot of it is just oppressive and depressive, isn't it? Friends reunited. Well done, Pauline. Well done, Pauline. Yeah, we actually had a school reunion through Friends Reunited, by the way. So that was pretty good. Yeah, what was that all about, Shalini? It was rotten here yesterday, raining on and off all day until evening, says Julie. Massive spraying in Hearts yesterday, says LB. Oh, Hugh said, it really is that why I had a headache? Yes. So they made a big thing about it, right? And they were saying that it was to do with the Icelandic eruptions. Okay. And what was really interesting was so basically weather maps showed this huge cloud of sulfur dioxide. And they claim that it was spat out by recent volcanic eruptions in Iceland, which incidentally I was watching. Do watch that. If you want a moment that makes you just go, oof, watch it. And they said it produced this combustion of coal or crude oil, and it resulted in this huge gas cloud across the UK, apparently. So I don't know really, truly what that was about. In Iceland, of course, they're now on their 9th explosion. They've now had 9 volcanic eruptions since 2021. Citizens have been forced to flee their homes. International team of scientists studied lava samples and seismic data from the last 3 years of eruptions. They discovered that the peninsula is sat on an interconnected magma plumbing system that could keep volcanoes fed with molten rock for decades to come. And honestly, the explosions were terrifying. Terrifying. I'm not convinced that's what was going on in the UK yesterday. And neither is Time Flies. And neither is Sophia. And neither are all the wonderful people who write to me regularly with their pictures. And Time Flies, let me see. Time Flies sent me a picture, actually, of the full moon rising, 20th of August in Neath, South Wales. And it's quite a stunning imagery of all of these lines crossing the moon. If there is a symbolism of all that's going wrong in the world, I think it's that picture. And Sophia sent me some brilliant pictures from Downham Market, Norfolk. And honestly, those cloud patterns and formations are not regular. This is not normal. We all know that. Keep sending in your pictures, peeps. Love to receive them one day. And also, when we've moved on to Wake Up 2.0, we'll start to be able to use your pictures on the live stream. That's what we're going to do. That is the plan. Okay. Moving on, another in our occasional series of he's a nonce and he works with children. But on this rare occasion, a judge has jailed him. Step forward, Tom Singleton of Framlingham in Suffolk, former headmaster of Mendlesham Primary School. He's, believe it or not, only just finally been banned from teaching for life. This was a man who was jailed last year for downloading, wait for this, more than 1 million child abuse images. You heard me right. More than 1 million. Okay. He also owned a paedophile manual that detailed how to abuse children without getting caught. He had so many images, they couldn't keep up. Some of them were absolutely in the extreme category. And you know what? The Teaching Regulation Agency only just met to decide his future as a teacher. Can you believe that? Earlier this month. And whether to consider whether the Secretary of State should ban him from the profession for life. They've now published the judgment, and golly, yes, they've agreed that they should ban this man from teaching for life. You think? Imagine that it's taken 10 months to get to this point where a man who has been involved in such egregious behaviour against children, over 1 million images, they're deciding whether he should go back into teaching or not once he's served his time. Honestly, it gobsmacks me. It absolutely gobsmacks me. That's the world we're living in, people. But don't you dare say anything bad on social media. That isn't a threat from me, by the way. That's just what they're doing, okay? And hello to Paul. Paul wrote to me and said he wanted me to see me interview some social media auditors. I'd like to do that. I've done that before. Was it AI Audit that I've interviewed before? How are you, AI? Get in touch with me. I want to do a roundtable of social media auditors, why they do what they do. These are some of the best in our citizen journalism. They are catching bad deeds and mad bylaws in real time. And I would love to interview more of them. And Paul said, I'd like to see you do a look at YouTube auditors. Well, I just extend this to all social media auditors. They've gone from being annoying police baiting scallies to globally important live streamers and citizen journalists, as seen all over the country recently. They also it helped expose C19, the security staff migrant scam, and the hotel scams, to name but a few. Absolutely, Paul. I'd be absolutely delighted. If you are a social media auditor, please get in touch with me. Let's bring us all together and let's do a good roundtable interview. I'm on Sonia Poulton at sky.com. Please come forward and let's do this. Let's do this. Anybody in the chat recommend any good social media auditors? And what about the wave tide electricity production? Yeah. Oh, I've missed that. Right. Clean your dog's paws, please. What's that? Yes. Beyond belief. They can't find the child rapists and murderers, but they can find the truth, whether it's being shared, can't they? They certainly can. Yeah. If you were to time travel, would you go back to Live Aid? Said Ian Holmes. I went to Live Aid, Ian. I went just wondering if I've got my photo album close. I actually lost my job as a consequence of going to Live Aid. Anecdote time, people. This was my first job when I came to London. I was a receptionist and then a secretary at a firm of chartered accountants in Houston. And we looked after rich and famous people, the accounts of rich and famous people, and including people like Ian McKellen and John Pertwee and loads of famous people. And so I was a secretary, and I'd been there for about 2 years or something. But that wasn't why I'd moved to London. I moved to London because I actually wanted to act. Yes, Sail Away, I know Audit in Britain. He's great, very welcome on here. So basically, I wanted to get a ticket for Live Aid for me and my sister-in-law Ali and my flatmate Una at the time. And I said to my boss, I want to take the morning off to be able to go and get a ticket for Live Aid, because that was what it was then. You couldn't just go on the internet. We didn't have internet, right? It was before internet. So you couldn't just go on the internet and buy a ticket, right? You literally had to queue up and go get one. So I wanted to take the morning off to queue up and go and get a ticket for Live Aid. And they refused. They refused to let me take the morning off, even though I was a diligent member of staff. But that was the kick I needed. And I took the morning off anyway, because that's the kind of girl I am. I went and got Live Aid tickets. We did go to Live Aid. And then I handed in my notice. And then they offered me all manner of incentives to stay because they liked me really and I liked them. But actually, it was time for me to leave. And that was the kick I needed. And I went to Live Aid, and no, I would not. If I had a time machine, I would not go back to Live Aid. That is not where I'd go to. Oh, Greg, sorry, Sonia, I'm autistic. Do you mean an auditor who's on social media or someone who audits social media? Okay, no problems, Greg. I suspect I might be a little on the scale myself. So there's these people who they literally go out. They are like the original citizens journalists, and they are literally auditing Britain. They are showing what is taking place that legacy media won't show us. And I interviewed one, I think it's AI Audits, I'm pretty sure it is. And he'd been caught up in a situation, and the police literally turned up at his door. They drove miles to turn up at his door because he'd been filming, and cause him all manner of hassle. AI Audits, come back on and remind me about your story. But that's what it is, Greg. That's what it is. And yes, so no, I wouldn't use a time machine to go back then. I would use a time machine to go back to, I don't know, times like, oddly enough, like the plague or things like that. Those times in history, because I would like to know the truth. I would like to know the truth of things that were going on, whether that's, during the war, because obviously we know that we're not told the truth. Truth is told by the victors, and the victors are often people like prime ministers. And who would trust a prime minister this century or any other century? So Dilip wants to charter an accountant and sail the wide account of a sea. I got you. Bono, let us down, said Simon. Oh, Bono promised everything, didn't he? Him and Bob Geldof, they promised the world, didn't they? Live Aid in principle was great. It was absolutely great. Thank you, Merv. Yes, Sail Away, absolutely. EA Audits, that's who you're talking about. Well done, win some, lose some. Absolutely. Tim A would use a time machine to go forward. Ooh, where would you like to go forward to? Pink Diamond said, never allow an employer to control your life. You're in charge of your life. That being said, I am the type of person who allows my boss to control my life. God love you, darling. Oh, Greg is talking about, is it Bannerman? Isn't exactly an auditor, but does great stuff on repossessions, rapid response, and holding the police to task. I saw one of his videos with this deranged ex-cop who has a obsession with me. It was actually very good. He was asking him proper questions. It was good. Kat, you used to trust a politician, did you? When was that, Kat? Soul Sound used to chat to him about it, so know if the difficulty got involved evenings and weekends when not working. Churchill hated the working class, said David King. Most of them do. Most of them do. And the working class very rarely get into power. And when they do, they forget that they're working class. Because I'm telling you something, right? If Angela Rayner truly remembered her impoverished working class roots, there is absolutely no way, as deputy leader of the Labour Party and now actually the government, that she would allow austerity to go through and the attack on pensioners. There's no way, right? People who remember their working class roots would not allow something like that to happen. Good morning, Paul. How are you? Craig said, imagine the world in 100 years, AI will rule. The problem is I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm not watching, I've no choice. They're being thrown in front of me. But I'm seeing videos of Trump breakdancing and Kamala Harris kissing Elon Musk. None of these things can possibly be true. Who knows? What if they are? Crazy Bunny says, Craig is obsessed with AI. Angie says, I published a half-page article in the Irish Times in 1984 on Live Aid. I also regret trusting the sellouts Geldof and Bono. Anytime but now, laid-back media wants to be. Anytime but now. We don't have 100 years left, said Kat. Oh, Kat, come on now. To be honest, I have a feeling that if I ever end up getting rich, somehow all of my morals will fly out of the window. Oh, no. I always say I want to be like silly rich because I know how to give it away. Like, that's it. I know how to give money away, right? I'm always paying it forward. There is nobody who comes to this door and, well, I'm not talking about Amazon drivers, although I always take care of them at Christmas, but like food delivers or anything, they all go away with a good tip because I think that's important. Because I've done that kind of stuff. I've done that kind of manual work before and it doesn't pay well and people need to be taken care of. Right, I'm going to move on to something completely different. You know, I've got an itchy nose, right? It's not because I have a C habit, by the way. That's what some people say when you have a itchy nose. I get kind of hay fevery and all that sort of stuff. But I discovered, well, actually, I was today years old, as popular parlance would have it. I was today years old when I discovered the actual term for a runny nose. Does anybody know it? If you don't know it, you're going to be grossed out by it. It's rhinorrhea. Right, as opposed to the other kind of runny stuff that comes from the other end. Rhinorrhea is the actual official name for a runny nose. Yes, it is. Right. And I was like, wait, what? Is that really it? I didn't realize that. I did not realize that. Have faith, people. There'll be a major transformation and life will be amazing. I agree. What's that? Sonia tips. What's tips? What tips did I just give? I can't remember. One moment to the next. I can't. If I got loaded, I'd leave the UK. Well, we're still allowed. I would love a holiday home somewhere hot. I'd love that. In an ideal world, I would love a country cottage. Probably in, yes, Julie. OMG. I know it's disgusting, right? Rhinorrhea. I'd love a country cottage. In the Cotswolds, where I was born and bred. I would still love to live in London. And I would love a holiday home abroad, right? I'd love all those things. Shalini, when you were by the seaside, no hay fever or sneezing. Shalini, wait, I think you might be onto something because I have a runny nose every morning, and that's why I looked up what it's all about, and it's rhinorrhea, but also I think it's just kind of clearing out and it could be allergies and everything. And I always feel fine after it. It's not anything that I'm concerned about. But that's interesting that you say that because when we were in Margate the other week, I don't remember having a runny nose. Near Clarkson's pub, says Ian. I know he's in the Cotswolds, isn't he? Right. And And I want gigs and a boat, beats and tapes. You're a bit late, my friend. Wait, what happened? What's going on? Morning. Julie C. My aim is to move to Portugal, says Craig. I wonder why. Craig, Madeline McCann, investigator. Wonder why that could be. Right, beautiful people. 10:54, right? And a couple of things that I still want to just talk about, because I think this is interesting, and that is the Sadler's Wells Theatre is playing fast and loose with me at the moment, and I'm not appreciating it. Can I say? I'm not appreciating it at all. Let me explain this to you, right? In May of this year, I went to a performance of it's the Sadler's Wells Breaking Convention. It's run by an old friend of mine, John ZD. It's been going on for 20 years. It actually was the anniversary. And there during that, and it's absolutely brilliant, it's amazing breaking and dancing, nothing like that hideous break dancing we saw at the Olympics the other week, which was an insult to all of us who understands breaking. So it's like proper brilliant dancing. But there was one performer called Sasha Shadid, and according to newspaper reports at the time, he was said to have left many of the audience feeling intimidated, with claims that several Jewish children were left traumatized. Now, I was there for that performance, and he actually, his performance was promoted by Sadler's Wells as a love letter to the values inspired by his Palestinian father. His performance was extremely passionate. There was no reason that it was intimidating, but the people who apparently were intimidated seemed somehow to get involved, the UK Lawyers for Israel, which lodged a formal complaint with Sir Alistair Spalding, the artistic director and co-chief executive of Sadler's Wells. And that's been dragging on. So I wanted to know what was going on. Now we're in August, what's been going on about that? Because the thing is that this reminds me of the old days of hip hop. And I think it's really relevant what I'm saying this today, Carnival Day, and having Dave VJ on, and a bit about my history and everything. And that is, hip hop was never meant to be seen through the lens of either white people or Jewish people or anybody except the people who created it. And what's going on here is what you had were Jewish families at Sadler's Wells who were saying, we didn't like this performer doing a love letter to Palestine. Well, so what? Don't go. Because I'll tell you what, the thing about events like this is it's not there to appease you or appease Israel or anything else like that. And have we really reached the stage now where art in our country or around the world has to, first of all, not insult Israel? I think not. Anyway, I contacted Sadler's Wells last week, as you do, because I'm a journalist and I do things like that. And I asked them, could you tell me what is going on? And they said, we take complaints very seriously and this is now settled. And I was like, settled how? Can you tell me how it's settled? Because I'm very concerned that there's been some kind of payoff here, and everybody is being very, very vague about what has taken place. And I want to know more. I want to know more. So I contacted the UK Lawyers for Israel. They said they haven't heard any more since May. And I've contacted Sadler's Wells again. I want to know what's happening. I want to know what's happening. And honestly, here's the thing, is that hip hop, breaking comes from hip hop, and hip hop was the original social movement, and it would always call out Zionism and any kind of genocide. It absolutely would. And don't try and sanitize it. If you don't like stuff like that, don't go to those kind of performances, right? I feel really grieved by this, because this to me is sanitizing an art form that absolutely needs to talk about injustices that are taking place in our world. And I can't think of one more pertinent to this situation than what's going on in the Middle East. So I'll let you know when they come back and let me know what's going on. But I'm not having it. I'm not having it. No, I'm not having it at all. That's been existing for 20 years without an issue. And suddenly Israel has to stick their nose in, or UK Lawyers for Israel, and some family who said their children felt intimidated. Felt intimidated, why? And this is not a one-off. This also happened at Edinburgh Festival recently as well. And one has to ask, is this a setup? Are people deliberately going into the audiences because they want to be offended, and then they can report it? I don't know. I'm just wondering. I'm just asking. And if you are the family who were so upset and so intimidated, get in touch with me. Come on and talk to me. Right? That's what I feel about that. Stop trying to sanitize music that was never really made for you, if that's the case. Okay. Simple stuff. I'm in that kind of mood today. Right. I wanted to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but I've remembered that a very good friend of mine also sent me an alternative, and I want to compare them side by side before I do that. So actually, what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to end today's show about how to break the generational curse. And I just say before that, right, this odd experience happened to me on Friday, and it's never happened before. And that was suddenly my iPhone became unavailable. It said I could try it in 8 minutes. I tried it in 8 minutes and it was still unavailable, and it literally wouldn't let me use it. Has anybody else experienced that? I've had iPhones now since what, 2018 maybe? Never happened before. Is this something new that they've brought in, that we can't use our phones sometimes when we want to, if we're a little bit subversive? Has anybody else had that experience where they have been prevented from using their phones, right? Oh, what's that? Oh, Pink Diamond, they not like us. Pink Diamond, you're a TikTok girl, are you? Hip hop all day, every day, says Beats and Tapes. Beats and Tapes, you missed Dave VJ. A little trek through my hip hop history. Yes, Timmer, Maslow is absolutely brilliant. Maslow is more relevant today than ever. He's totally underestimated. Absolutely. The triangle, the hierarchy of needs, about how you need to first of all, satisfy your physical needs in order to be able to progress. And eventually the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. I think there is, Sail Away, there is a new update. Oh, here we go again. So I'm having problems like that with Hotmail. It was busy uploading your data and images to a secure secret server, says Dileb. Don't scare me. Catherine said, my phone has a mind of its own these past few days. It's very odd, Crone. Very odd. It happens whenever you can reach an audience, says Beyond Belief. That has literally never happened to me, though. So let's talk about how to break the generational curse, right? So generational curse, some people more associate that with religion. I don't. And some people say there's no such thing. Actually, what there is there is a series of patterns that get handed down from generation to generation. And I think that is probably more about what's going on. But nonetheless, it is still a pattern that needs to be broken, because the original idea of a generational curse was that it was a witch or some kind of evil person who would put a curse on your family, and that carried down from generation to generation. And I mean, Christians believe that it's God's way of punishing people who sin. That's another belief to it. So it has kind of religious and philosophical connotations. And also the thing about generational curses is it can be anything. It can literally be anything. Some people have what they believe a generational curse to be, that people die young in their families, as one example. And that was a belief that we often had in our family. My mum died at 49. Both my brother and sister died over the last 3-4 years, and they were both only in their 60s, which I think is young. But I actually think the generational curse in my family was a poverty mindset. I think it's highly like, we certainly didn't come from lords and ladies, and we would have come from probably like scullery maids. My grandfather was a coal miner, so that was the sort of background to it, and it was about never kind of accumulating or getting any further. And I broke that curse by going to university. I didn't say I'm going to university to break a generational curse. I just naturally did, because all of the essences of the clan that came into me enabled me to take that next step. And what's interesting is my daughter, it was a given for my daughter to go to university and progress the way she is, and she has none of the same issues as me, but I had to overcome a lot of that kind of stuff, those kind of generational curses of a sort of poverty mentality, of feeling that you never have enough, or any of that sort of stuff. And I've overcome all of that. And I mean, where does it come from, right? Really, in truth, it's a dysfunctional pattern that just exists from one generation to another. In the Bible, the generational curses were caused by the sins of the father, we were told. In Greek mythology, many gods would sometimes curse families. We were told that as well. And it exists all throughout in Hinduism. Many other ancient religious texts also refer to generational curses. And some people believe that it's genuinely in our DNA. They believe that. They often believe that it's encoded in our DNA. We act without knowing where some behaviors or choices stem from. I mean, you can often see it in behaviors, right? And sometimes when they talk about, for example, like when they want to tar, and when legacy media went through a period of wanting to tar and feather people who were struggling to get by and struggling on benefits, they talk about generations of family who have never worked, right? That's a one example. Why is this not going back up again? Pop it back up again. There you go. They talk about generations of families who've not worked, right? And that in itself is a generational curse, because sometimes when you're raised in a family that has struggled, because we don't all start off from the same point, which is why it's ridiculous when you get a Kylie Jenner saying, you know, I started a young business like everybody else. Yeah, honey, babe, we didn't all start off from the same point, right? You started off from a rich family, right? And also a sister who was prepared to have sex on tape so you could all become famous. So we're all not starting from the same point. So, but by the same token, oftentimes we are carrying over remnants from our past. And I found that myself, as I say. And one of the ways that I broke the generational curse was to kind of be more aspirational. And that was, I was going to university. I went in my 40s. So I didn't go at regular times like at 18. I went in my 40s. And I remember when I was graduating, my brother was like cheering because first to go to university, and it was a moment of pride. It was a moment of pride, but it wasn't just about going to university. It was about breaking away from that kind of poverty mindset, which I definitely don't have these days. I definitely don't. But the thing is that it also can be environmental. Some generational curses are picked up from the environment that you live in. As I say, like this whole idea that you have generations of people who are unemployed, but also you can have generational curses of violence, of alcoholism, of various substance abuse, of various addictions, right? And also you can also have, for example, domestic abuse, which runs down the generations, because there's a good chance if you dig through your family history that whatever you're experiencing, somebody else also experienced it in your family history. And also don't forget about learned behavior when it comes to breaking generational curses. And so, for example, say, turn it on its head. Say you come from a wealthy family and you become obsessed with money above all else. That in itself is a curse, right? It's a curse. Some regular generational curses: violence, addiction, poverty mindset that I was just talking about, single parenthood. I am a single mother of a single mother, right? This is not a coincidence, right? Overworking is a generational curse. Experiencing prejudice is a generational curse. If you're brought up in a prejudice discriminative household, it is highly likely that you may also be the same way. Promiscuity, having affairs, not being able to stick with one person, these are all what can be considered generational curses. Toxic parenting habits, like laziness, anger and rage issues, all of these things can be handed down the family. And one of the ways to break these is reach out to living relatives, right? One of the best ways to learn about what is in your family that you want to get away from, what you want to change, is to find older generations in your family and you know, approach them, say, I want to tackle this. I believe that I have this way of behaving, and I believe that it's kind of been bred into me, both in my environment, possibly in my DNA, and I want to change it. I want to break the generational curse here and now. But also, what traits and patterns do you yourself recognize? Chat, talk to me. Mickey says narcissism, another demonic curse. Drugs are for mugs, lol. Check out Opium War, says David. C says baggage gets carried through several generations, just like family stories. 100%. Humphrey inherited a bad temper. Sasha says we are the cycle breakers. We are. We absolutely are. Let us be that. If nothing else, let us break those cycles, right? And show people who we are. Humphrey, I completely get it. Right. I was known for a very long time as somebody who had a fairly fiery temper, and I still have. But I now use it when it needs to be used, right? I don't just use it. I use it with great discrimination, put it that way. Yes, soul sound. Generational curses become really complex when combined with fresh trauma. Absolutely. Kenneth is talking about a petition for Declan's Law, UK, right? Are you due to meet local York MP? Rachel Maskell, progress delayed because of change of government. Remember Declan Garrett, Matthew Curran, 6th of the 6th, 1995. This is your brother, isn't it, Kenneth? This is your brother who died when he didn't need to. Absolutely. Justice for him and justice for all your family, sweetheart. And slow chat has been turned on. You can comment in 100 years. Right. Sonia, chat talk to me. Tries to talk to YT. Yeah, I know. I think I might have to return to our ordinary chat, you know, people. This is actually too slow for me to read. Louise, Mastermind and Rap Attack. Take care. Delroy, you know. Short Order Cook said, if we could forgive the sins of the past, we may not have these wars. They carry on forward through the generations. Thank you, Shaz. Shaz truly loves the variety of the content on this show. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's really important to me to be varied, right? Really important to me to be varied. Because one thing I never, ever want to be accused of is being boring. Boring isn't for me. I'm not born to be boring. I like variety. Yes, they are passed down. They absolutely are. What's this? Protest in harmony. What's that? These are from the old era, but with healing, we need to lose them and bring in a new era. Pauline, let us bring in a new era right now. Reject normality, return to chaos. We don't need to return to chaos, Pink Diamond. What are you suggesting here? And sorry about that. Depression in third generation here. I am so sorry about that. And I'm not suggesting for 1 second that I can cure your depression. What I try and do always at the end of the show is try and lift people up, bring people back to us, right? Who we are, because we're constantly being distracted and taken away from who we are and what we're about. And Crazy Bunny, let us break the curse. Marilyn asked, does Israel have a generational curse? Well, good question. My son Kevin is another son, and my daughter Cara, little heartbeats. Absolutely, absolutely. Just on cue, I sneeze, says Shalini. Right, so let's talk about breaking this. How do we break it? So first of all, recognize your patterns and traits, right? Get your list. Take a deep look inside of yourself. People are being very open on the live chat right now. So 1111 people, we love 1111. People are being very open on the live chat, expressing themselves. And it's a great starting point. You know, it's a bank holiday today for many people around the world. I don't think it's just in the UK. And all I will say is if you've got any spare time in your hands, start to write those lists. Look at your shadow side. What do you dismiss about yourself? This is very important. Look deep into those shadow traits. As I said, for many years, I dismissed the fact that I have a fiery temper. I was like, what? No, it's really not an issue. Everybody's like that. No, actually, you have an extreme fiery temper when you go. And I had to deal with that. That was a darker aspect of myself. I dismissed it. I pushed it away for a long time, but it kept rearing its ugly head and refused to be silenced. And in the end, I had to deal with it. And I can't say this enough when it comes to breaking any generational curses, and that is absolutely practice self-care. It has to start with you, right? One of the best ways to do it is establish a good self-care routine. When we show ourselves love, compassion, and care, we begin to heal our inner child. Yes, our inner child that might have felt unheard or abandoned or rejected or not as popular as the other school kids or whatever. A very good friend once said to me, nobody wants to peak at the age of 10. So remember that if you were not popular at primary school, you may do something incredible at 70 that changes the world, right? While you're still breathing, there's still plenty of time, right? You must start that self-care routine, whatever it is, whether it's if you're feeling low and you want to light a fire and have a glass of red wine or a hot bath, or making sure you have a good sleep routine. That is the start of breaking a generational curse, because that gives you every ability to have good clarity. And you also must practice. You also must practice regular sleep habits, good hygiene, eating correctly, all of these things, right? And because this is also, because then what you're doing is you're creating the very best bedrock to tackle your mental and emotional well-being and your mindset. Right? So often our perspectives on life can be warped as children, and some people never recover from that experience. Well, I'm here to help you do that, to hold your hand and get you past whatever it was that made you freeze, right? That arrested your development. And we can do that together. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. So please do take excellent care of yourself today and this week, whenever, right? I was also a single parent. I went to uni in my 20s with a 5-year-old, Mrs. Pyra. You're a star. And I've met that woman and she is a star. Absolutely, she is. And I've also met her children, actually, and they're also wonderful, right? Do you remember when we went to Hampstead Pond, stop men swimming in the women's pond, right? Oh, what? The Shaz, my husband has been watching with me this morning. Hip hop breaking background while you were managing the Demon Boys. He was trying to get a record deal and saw firsthand what was going on. What? See, I love that. I love that. 1111 is cursed, says Laid Back Media. Stop that. No doubt it is an abusive relationship with government. Are you talking about Israel there? I'm not sure. You are welcome, Kenneth. Shalini, yeah, get back in shape, right? But for yourself. Oh, Mrs. Pyra, I remember that too, right? Randy says the deep look into yourself is so hard. It is so hard, Randy. But the thing is you're worth it. You are worth it. But get people to help you. Family members, be prepared. Say, tell me stuff about myself that you might have been scared to tell me in the past. And I promise I won't shout. Imagine that. In fact, I'm going to say that today. And I hope that what I don't get back is stuff that I don't want to hear, because I would like to believe, for the most part, that I have very open relationships with my family. I was raised in a family where we kind of, like, when we have a problem, we kind of put it all on the table and everybody has a good rummage around and then we come up with various solutions for it, right? Yes, Larry, I used to manage the Demon Boys. Yep, absolutely. Demon D, Mike J, my boys. My boys. We went off to Germany together. We traveled. I managed some of the best, including wonderful DJ Pogo. Have a good week, everyone, says Timmer. Peace out. I'm going to try and go out for a walk. See the ducks today. Good. Let's do it. Great show. Thank you. See how we're living. Thanks for the shout out. Get your favorite auditors to contact Sonia, folks. Absolutely. Right, people. I'm going to go because I love you. And it's 11:15. My aim was to do a show from 9 to 10:30, but somehow that just never seems to pan out, right? Healing the silence. Well, welcome in. It doesn't. Chronic insomnia is a menace. It is indeed. But you know, the great thing is we have playback. So, as you know, people, we would be absolutely nowhere without finishing. We are up to 2,813 views. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, this bank holiday morning. And thank you for all of your support, however you support this live stream, whether it is guest suggestions, being here on the live stream, leaving comments afterwards, by donating, by liking, sharing, subscribing. Every bit counts. Love you all, right? And I'm going to finish on a comment, because I'm going to finish on a quote, because, well, that's the kind of person I am, right? And that is, pain travels through family lines until someone is ready to heal it in themselves. By going through the agony of healing, you no longer pass the poison chalice on to the generations that follow. It is incredibly important and sacred work. Lovely people, go to it. I know you can do it. Have a brilliant Monday. Have a brilliant week. I will see you Friday. Love you all. Take good care of yourself. Good day to you all, sweethearts. Take care. See you Friday.